we've thought about who our audience are, but now we need to think about where they are online and how do we get to them in those places. For example, if you are using social media, then you need to make sure that you are using the platforms that your audience are using. There is generally, for academics, Twitter is a better platform to be using than Facebook. Facebook tends to be a platform where people want to communicate with their friends, whereas Twitter users are much more open to communicating with organisations or people like yourselves who might have some research to share. It's less accepted on Facebook. You might be targeting an academic audience, in which case you might be much better going to somewhere like ResearchGate or academia.edu, where the people on there are all academics. So that's the first thing, is to make sure that the platforms you are using are where your target audience are. Be aware of search engine optimization, and that doesn't just apply to websites, and use the words that your audience are using. So, for example, if you are targeting academics in your research area, then jargon and terminology that relates to your research might be a completely appropriate way to word your communication. But if you're targeting members of the public, then the chances are you're going to need to simplify your language quite a lot in order to be able to appeal to the broad range of people who don't have any base level of understanding of the kind of work that you're doing. The other thing is to participate in online discussions about your subject. So if there is a discussion happening around your research area or an area of expertise that you have, then be involved in those discussions, offer your opinion, show people that you're an expert, and also link back to your channel. So if you've got a Twitter profile or even a research paper that might be relevant to the conversation that they're having, offer a link. But beware of just offering things for the sake of it. If it's not relevant, they're not going to go there. Again, as I said before, ensure everything that you've got links together. Link your Twitter feed to your blog and your website. Link your website to your Twitter feed and your blog. Link, and vice versa. So it is in fact a big circle that people can travel around. And one of the main things. And one of the main things potentially to take away from this whole section is to create some interesting and shareable content that's directly relevant to your target audience. The more targeted it is and the more relevant it is to your audience, the more chance you've got of it being shared. If it's not relevant to them, they're not going to bother with it, and it'll just fall flat. Creating interesting content is another thing, and creating things that people want to pass on. In doing this, somebody emailed me a video which I didn't actually have time to put into the presentation, and I don't know whether it was someone from this group or the morning group, and excuse the language, but this video was called Poor, and it was a really, really clever social experiment that had been put together by a marketing agency. And it was a really, really clever use of video. It was really short and it was really shareable. And basically, they'd done an experiment to find out what happened if somebody stood on a street with a big billboard that said poor. And unsurprisingly, he got quite a lot of abuse. Later in the day, they changed the billboard to help the poor, and everybody ignored him. So it was a really interesting social experiment in how people react to things, but it was really, really good, shareable piece of content. It's the kind of thing that you can imagine sticking up on Facebook and seeing, that it's been shared 20, 30, maybe even 100, 200 times. And those kind of pieces of content don't come along very often. But if you're getting, 10, 15 shares, you're doing pretty well, and you'd be amazed at how much that amplification can increase the reach of what you're putting out there just with 5 to 10 shares. And the other thing to be aware of is that with all online engagement, if you're just starting out, it will start slowly. If you set up if you go home tonight and set up a Twitter account and then expect to be getting loads and loads of retweets and loads of followers by the end of next week. That's just not going to happen. You've got to build it up slowly, and it will happen over time. But I would say sort of 6 months probably to really build a following, to start to be known, and to really get things out there.